In Chapter 5 of Conquest with Zero Strength and Magic, after an accidental matricide, Corrin transforms into a feral dragon which boosts his stats but makes him unable to pair up. For this map, we get Sakura who has 0 magic and Azura who has 0 strength. Sakura is a temporary healer used only on this map because she does not appear in the Conquest route, and Azura is practically identical and functions to normal fates. This is a route map where an allied Ryoma faces off against a mysterious figure, a fight that he will very likely lose. While Ryoma fights the boss, we fight a mixed variety of dark mages and mercenaries, some of whom are armed with worm slayers, which are very dangerous against Corrin. I open the map by moving towards the lower right. I immediately dive onto the worm slayer enemy by piling on debuffs and then defeat him by having Corrin attack twice by using Azura's action refresh. With the most threatening enemy gone, the remaining foes are easy to dispatch over the course of the next few turns. This handles the first group, and after Ryoma inevitably loses his duel, I move south. Unfortunately, once you approach the boss, another group of 2 mercenaries and 3 dark mages become aggressive, and at the same time, 4 more dark mages spawn in as reinforcements from the corners of the map. Simply put, I don't have enough damage to kill them before they kill me, especially because Corrin cannot counterattack at 2 range. Furthermore, since they spawn from multiple directions, there's not really any effective places I can use as a choke point. In desperation, I try an extreme tactic where I sacrifice Rinka as bait to trigger the reinforcements and then try to make a choke point in the lower right. Unfortunately, Sakura's healing is very weak because she has 0 magic, and it's simply not enough to overcome the sheer amount of magic damage I take from the mages. With my current setup, it's basically impossible to fight against the second set of enemies effectively. I theorized that the scuffed choke point method could probably work with a plus resistance wound Corrin that leveled resistance on every single level up, but restarting the run for something so tenuous and uncertain will be an absolute last resort, especially since Fate's level ups cannot really be RNG abused. Instead, I turn to the ultimate crutch, Ryoma. Normally, Ryoma will lose his fight against the mysterious figure because he dies in 2 hits while needing to land 8 to win, all the while having a very shaky hit chance and extremely questionable dodge rate. It is very unlikely, but it has been previously documented that it is possible for him to win, and once he wins, in theory, he will move around and kill all the remaining enemies. Now, how likely is it for Ryoma to actually win? And the answer to that is actually surprisingly difficult to calculate because of Vantage, Duelist Flow, and several other hidden mechanics. Namely, Ryoma is hard-coded to dodge all attacks for the first 2 turns, and while he has a displayed crit chance, he will never crit the boss. Modeling this based on probabilities is very complicated because of all the moving parts and special interactions. To assess the actual probability of success, a simulation is a more viable alternative, so I took some time to write a Python script to run a million simulations of the battle, and if my calculations are correct, Ryoma will only win the battle roughly 1.5% of the time. Anyway, while playing this map, I was completely unaware of the actual chances of Ryoma winning, aside from knowing that it was low. After several attempts where Ryoma didn't get anywhere close to winning, I started using save state to try to boost the odds, but even those aren't a guaranteed win. Fate's RNG is not very easily manipulable, and unlike the GBA games, arrow dancing will not progress the RN state. The most practical way to abuse RNG is to manually progress the random numbers through combat, so even if you save state, you can only affect the outcome so much. I keep resetting until I get a very good streak of Ryoma hits and dodges, and then I make a save state. With every failed subsequent attempt, I load the save state and try to progress the RN list until I eventually run out of safe actions to perform entirely. But finding another lucky starting state will simply take even more time, so I decide to commit and go all in. So then I sacrifice Azura to burn even more RNs, which guarantees Ryoma's 8th hit and allows him to win the fight. With this, Ryoma is free to roam around the map, but this also triggers enemy aggression as well as the mage reinforcements. Now, my objective is simply to survive, but doing that is easier said than done. Because of the actions I took while burning RNs, I'm in a more precarious spot than I would like, and Azura is dead. While she will come back after the route split, her absence is a big reduction to both my offensive and defensive capabilities. Fortunately, I was able to catch one of the reinforcement mages by trapping him at spawn, but all the remaining enemies will be much more difficult to kill. Fortunately, Ryoma catches up and starts slaughtering enemies left and right like a slasher villain. And while he cleaves through the enemies like a scythe through hay, I'm still barely hanging on by a thread, and I am forced to sacrifice Rinka to block a Wormslayer Myrmidon. But I still need more time, so I also use Kaze as a human shield, and his life buys me enough distance to get away, allowing Ryoma to obliterate the final enemies and complete the map. After around 30 total attempts and several dead characters, we have finally finished the introduction of Fire Emblem Fates, none of which is actually part of the Conquest route.